Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the channel. Let's go ahead and wrap up the month of April for me. And before we get into the books, I do just want to say April was a wild month for me. When I went back and looked at what the first book I finished in this month was, I looked and I couldn't believe that I actually finished that book in April. April has been one of the longest months of my life for a couple of different reasons, mostly work related. I worked a lot in April. And so looking back and seeing how much I actually did read in April and when stuff happened was just kind of mind blowing to me. And then I did also compete in my strongman competition. I competed in the Southeastern Regionals and did all right. And so this month, just kind of a whole whirlwind of stuff. And I just wanted to take a moment and appreciate that and show that, even when that you have a lot going on, reading is still going to always be there. You can always come back to it. And it's not so much of a race. I know a lot of times we get caught up in numbers and everything. And I am a numbers person. I'm going to start talking about books saying I read 1600 pages or roughly 1600 pages in April and that like finished 5 books. So those are the stats, right? But just keep in mind, it's not all that serious. And when real life gets in the way, the books will always be there. You can always come back to it. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the first book that I finished in the month of April. And that is The Fugitive Prince by Jenny Wirtz. This is book 4 of the Wars of Light and Shadow by her, I think, depending on if you're in the UK, US, her 11 or 10 book epic series. And this is my favorite of the series so far. Each book for me has gotten better at this point. I would love if that happened for every book. Everyone just got a little bit better. That would be really awesome. I don't think I've ever had a series this long where every single book just was like a linear progression upwards. Obviously, I'm not going to say too much about this. It's book 4 in a big series. I will say if you haven't started this series, I think you absolutely should, or at least give maybe her standalone to Ride Hell's Chasm a chance. I actually haven't even read that one yet. I've read a couple of her other standalone. What is it? The Master of Whitestorm. I really enjoyed that. So I do implore you to give her writing a chance. She's a brilliant author with some really just interesting stories and just it's really great. I will say that with this book, I think it and War Host of Vastmark are like the ones that really are like neck and neck for me on being my favorite. I think War Host has a peak that is higher than any peak that we hit in here, but this book is just such a steady just a steady rhythm throughout it, just tackling complex themes and just these interpersonal things that are going on with the characters in this book, and just how much I care about what is happening to them, and just how fascinating I think some of the journeys that are going on. This is not like your traditional hero's journey at all. And one of the main characters in here, Lysair in particular, I just find him to be such a fascinating character. The path he is on, how he feels so righteous in what he's doing, and how he believes wholeheartedly in what is happening, and some of the heartbreak that he goes throughout not just this book, but through the series in general. And while all of that is true, he's not really the good guy either. And it's just a fascinating, story that I'm going through. I think it's been great. There's a lot of people talking about this series right now, which I think is awesome. I've been reading it for a while, so it's funny that the big talking story read along is probably going to pass me this year because I'm just read these books really slowly, and they kind of have like a really steady rhythm they're going on. But so I'm saying that so that there are definitely other videos and long discussion pieces that you can go. Joanna, Philip Chase, and AP Canavan have like a long running series where they go through each book and talk about everything as well. So there's a lot of resources. I feel like a lot of people may be scared off about this series, and I just want to say, like, this is a series that will sit with you if it's something that works for you. And it's not going to work for everybody. I don't think any book or series is going to work for everybody, but if this is a series that works for you, I think it's going to be deeply impactful and really just mean something to you. If you're one of those readers where books really mean something to you, I don't see how this book isn't one of them, or the series isn't one of them. I'm not saying this book, but like each book just feels like another layer put into like this masterpiece that is happening, this tapestry that is being painted in front of me with every single one of these books that I read. And it's crazy. Like I said, this felt like I finished it so long ago just with how April was. And as soon as I looked at my list, I just like was transported back here. And I really cannot wait to get back to this series. There's a couple other books that I'm reading physically, but once that clears up a little bit, this will be the next one that I come back to. After The Fugitive Prince, the next book I tackled was a very highly anticipated release, not just for me, but for a lot of people. And this is kind of an author who I think has a lot of mixed feelings from people, and I totally understand that because his writing can be very interesting. And I'm talking about Stephen Graham Jones, and in particular, The Buffalo Hunter Hunter. This is a book that I get further and further away from it, the more and more I appreciate what this book was doing. I think my initial reaction, which was a 3-star, I didn't think I said, I gave The Fugitive Prince a 4-star. This was a 3-star read for me. And I think maybe as this sits with me more, it's maybe actually climbing its way to more of a 4-star ranking. I think I had a pretty visceral reaction to how this book ends. It really took me out of everything that was happening in the book. And there was some like sections in it that I just felt were a little dull. But I do think that I don't even want to say with the creature that this book tackles, I think was done in a very unique way. I think it really shows some of the history between Native Americans and settlers coming into the country, and like some of, well, if you don't know history, the things that actually happened during those times and how bad things were. I think it tackles a lot of those things very well. But I don't know, the ending of this book is wild. If you've read this book, you know, and it really just took me aback. I didn't see it coming, and that is definitely something that I've struggled with. But as I've settled with that book more and more, it is something that has worked more. And I'm kind of, it's one of those books where I'm pushing aside the flaws and only remembering the good, which doesn't happen for every book. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. But there's just something about the Buffalo Hunter that like, I find myself thinking back to specifically the main character, well, who I'm going to consider the main character, the person we spend a lot of time with. I just think about them and how interesting their journey is. And I don't know, it's a weird book. There are some weird things that happen in there, and you know, it's definitely not going to be for everybody. And I will also say, I listened to this book. I could definitely see how this book, if you were reading it, would be really difficult. And I say that because this is a story that is taking place in modern day, from a journalist, or not a journalist, a scientist who is recounting, or gets a journal, and they are reading the journal entries of their great 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 grandfather, who is a priest, or a pastor, who is writing in this journal the story that somebody's telling him. So it's like Inception levels of like who is telling the story, and at one point who is what. I don't know. I could just see how it would be difficult for me. The audio voice is different for all of the characters, or you know, makes it easy enough to recognize. So I could definitely see that maybe being a slight problem for some people. But overall, I'm positive on it. You know, I gave it a 3-star. It means I liked it. But I have definitely seen some people who absolutely hated it, specifically the ending. So I don't know. That might be one that if you are curious about, you know, try it out, see if you like it or not. Don't just listen to me. Definitely find some other voices and honestly just read it for yourself. That is the best thing to do. After that, I went to some of my shorter reads that I had planned for the month. The first one being a very short story called The Machine Stops by E.M. Forster. There we go. And this is, I think this was only like an hour-long audiobook. I think it was included in Audible. So if you have Audible and you want to check that out, you can go ahead. This was a book that I picked up because Murphy Napier talked about it. And also it was a book that was written in like 1909, which anytime I read science fiction that's that old, I always find it really interesting to see like what were the concepts and the ideas that they were playing with. And basically this is a story that is playing with, it's not AI, it's a machine, but it's basically an AI, some kind of super intelligent thing that is just taking care of everybody, and all of your needs are fulfilled, and there's nothing you need to worry about and everything. And you just kind of see what is going on in that world and what happens. And like I said, it's very short. I can't say too much more than that because then I basically just tell you the whole story and you have no reason to read it. I will say I think it is a valuable read, especially for how old it is. The more I frame it in the fact that it was written as long ago as it was, the more I think it is a very brilliant piece of writing. I gave it 3 stars as like my modern reader with everything I've read in it, you know, all of my modern sensibilities and just like stories I've experienced, right? It didn't hit the same, but man, thinking about this as somebody who would have read it in like 1909 or 1910, you know, right after it came out, it would be kind of mind-blowing, I think. And I think it just is a really great encapsulation of like what was some thoughts that were going on at the time and what people were thinking about. So I think that in and of itself makes it worth it. Then I read The Signal. This is also another Audible inclusive thing. So if you once again have Audible, you can definitely check it out there. Like I said, it's included with your membership. And this is one of, I call it Audible's TV shows, which makes no sense because there's no video, but it's a story that is basically told in the format of episodes. Like each chapter is like an episode, and you can really tell that this, I always say, they really ride the line. Wow, I cannot speak today. They ride the line of it being like a script reading and being a book. And this is one of those ones where I think is really, really blended of like, if this was written down in like a physical like novel, how would it come out? Just because it has so much production and stuff around it. Overall, I think it was good. It plays with an interesting concept of, okay, a scientific research lab gets a signal and they are very convinced that it is from deep outer space, but there are people who are doubting that. Basically, everyone is like, was it real? Was it aliens, or was it some kind of military thing? And you basically follow some journalists as they try to break down and figure out what was actually happening. Is there a kind of grand conspiracy cover up? And this one is one of the many books that, and this is not abnormal, but this one really, how you're going to feel about it is how you feel about the twist. Which one of these things do you think happens, and like the explanation that comes along with it? For me, it didn't work as well as I think I would have liked it to, which is unfortunate. I mean, obviously, you always want things to work, but I think overall it's a decent enough listen. It's a really quick one. It's included with your membership. So once again, if you are somewhat interested in it, I definitely think it's worth checking out. And then lastly, the final book that I finished in the month of April, and this is the third book in a trilogy, is Faithbreaker by Hannah Kanner. This is book 3 in the Fallen Gods trilogy, I believe it is called. And I liked it. I gave this one 3 stars. This is a series that the first book I thought was really special. And then the second book, I think, really had some of the worst middle book syndrome I've ever read in my entire life. I'm still not sure that book was really entirely needed. And then this book was a mix of both of them, right? So there were moments in this book where I just thought it really dragged, and I was like, man, are we really spending time with this? Or let's get something going. And then there were other just moments of absolute brilliance in here. There are some scenes with some characters where they're just together, like just being together, that is what I really appreciated from the first book. And when that happened again in the third book, it was just, that magic was back, right? It was just brilliant. And there are some heart-wrenching moments in it. Like, I definitely feel like there are some great moments in it that make me feel. And I'm always looking for that when I'm reading. So I will say, now that the whole trilogy is out, I definitely think this is a series that lends itself to probably be read very close back to back to back. It really picks up each book. If I'm like, they all kind of tie very closely into each other. There's not like big time gaps or anything where like everything kind of resets. It's a lot of like go, go, go. And there's political maneuvering, gods, just all kinds of things going on. So I think overall it's a series and a trilogy that I would recommend, especially. This is a series that I think does like inclusivity very, very well, probably better than any other book or series I've ever read. And if that is something that like you want to explore or you like to see represented in your reading, this is like a great series for that. So I do just want to put that little caveat in there that like this is a great series for those kinds of things. And I do think it's important to have those out there. So overall, The Fallen Gods, it didn't live up to the hypes that I want, the highs that I wanted it to after the first book, God Killer. But overall, I think it was a good enough time that I'm glad I read it. It's probably not going to make like a top 10 all time or anything, but I will always have especially very fond memories of God Killer, and I will always love the covers for the series. Some of the best covers ever happen in this series. And then that leaves me with 2 books that I did start in April, but did not finish. The first one being The Lonesome Crown by Brian Lee Durfee. I don't actually know how far I am into that. I think a little bit over halfway now. So I will finish that here early in May, which if you watch my TBR, you'll see everything that I'm going to read in May. And then the other thing that I started and will definitely be finishing here very soon is this Discovery by J.A.J. Minton, also known as Talking Story. And I was lucky enough to get my physical edition that is signed. So let me go ahead. You can see got my nice signed edition going on here. So I had to retire my homemade cover, which is kind of sad now that I've got the actual physical book. But yeah, I plan on having a review come out for this whenever I finish it, right before the release, probably the week that it comes out. So far, I am very much enjoying it. I'm pretty hooked, honestly. I'm not even that far into it. I think I'm like 15, maybe 20%. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it's been really good so far. So you can definitely look forward to seeing a review for that coming out. But definitely let me know how your reading was for the month of April. Overall, I'm really impressed. If I could have finished either Discovery or The Lonesome Crown in April, that would have been like crazy numbers for reading for me, especially with how busy I was. It's actually very exciting to look how much I did read with everything that I had going on. I do have sad news in that I did not read any manga in the month of April. I think that was one of just the sacrifices that I made just because I was so busy that I didn't have any drive to pick up and read manga at all in the month of April. Even when I thought about it, it's just like, I'd rather just relax and not do anything, which is a weird feeling to have because that's not normally like, not that I'm a read manga every day kind of person, but I do definitely like read it normally. So it was just one of those things where it did not happen in the month of April. Maybe here in May it'll pick back up, but honestly, who knows at this point. And then let's quickly talk about some of the things that I have watched. Wheel of Time was a hot button issue, or not issue, it was a hot button topic, I think, on the internet for a while. And I am glad to say that for me, season 3 was just like such a step up from season 1 and 2 that I'm so glad, and I really hope that it gets a season 4. Like, what would be the worst case scenario is that we finally get like a good season of the Wheel of Time, and then all of a sudden it's just gone and we don't get any more. I think that so much stuff happened early on in the production of that show that really hamstrung it, that the fact that they have been able to right the ship and kind of get it back in the general right direction, I'm okay with them changing stuff. Like, I'm not, okay, I have to make this caveat. I am somebody who, if you're going to do an adaptation, like if it were my ideal world, it would be page for page, word for word. I don't want any deviations. I understand that's not realistic. I understand that's not how adaptations have really ever been done. And so as far as adaptation goes, I think some of the things they're doing and changing at least work for the story as a whole. Not everything, obviously. And there are some things that I don't think they can really, they just kind of need to like hand wavy magic. Hey, don't remember the weird stuff that happened, especially at the end of season 1 with like people dying and coming back and just all kinds of weird stuff. But season 3 of The Wheel of Time, like, I don't know, it was just so nice to be happy and excited to watch it instead of like dreading what was going to happen, especially like season 2 I was more okay with. Season 1 to me just like really irked me in a lot of ways. But season 3, I want season 4. Like when we were out of episodes, I was like, man, I really wish we had 4 more episodes, or like I didn't want it to be over. So I wish I could keep binge watching through that. So that is my last probably pitch for the Wheel of Time here for a little bit. If you're not going to watch it, you're not going to watch it at this point probably. And that's okay too. You don't have to watch anything you don't want to. If it's burned, if the bridge has been burned already for you, that's okay. Let it be burned. I have also been watching Band of Brothers. Almost done. I think I have an episode left. And early on, I said I didn't understand why people liked it as much as they do. The more I've watched it, I totally get why people like it as much as they do. I just don't think I'm one of those people. I think it's very well done. I think it's telling the story of like the war and everything that's going on. I think it's done very, very well. But I don't know. It's not like the greatest. It's not the revelation that I wanted it to be, right? Because like when I was trying to find a new show, I think I Googled or I looked up what the top 10 shows on IMDb or some site were, and it was like number 5 or 6, and I like expected to be blown away, and that's just not what happened. I still think it's really good, like I said, but it's just not like the next great thing for me, unfortunately. Let's see. We have also started watching The Last of Us. I am somebody who played the video games, or actually, I didn't play the video games. I watched Let's Plays of the video games, so I knew the story. And watching my girlfriend see what happens in episode 2 of season 2, and her reaction and her like basically wanting to rage quit the show was just comedic gold for me. But also like, man, I'm curious on some of the changes that they made that really like fundamentally change Ellie's character and her relationship with Joel in ways that I'm really not sure I like. I think they did some things that I'm just leaving me with like me scratching my head, and I'm just not sure why they did that. And if you want to know specifically what I'm talking about, feel free to comment down below. I'll elaborate there. I don't want to spoil anything. And then the last thing was the NFL draft. I spent way too much time just watching the draft, and I don't even think it was in particular like the greatest draft ever. I'm a Steelers fan, so overall I'm pretty happy with the Steelers draft. Harmon was a huge need for us in, our defense at the end of the season. The last like 8 weeks, our run defense was just horrific, which is crazy. We have one of the highest paid defenses, and it was just bad the last little bit of the season. So hopefully, it looked like a good, solid foundational draft where you can like we're gonna have solid starters for like the future in some like key positions. They might not be like even Pro Bowl level, but they're going to be guys who can probably be on the roster for a little while. And you need those drafts every now and again, especially one where it felt like the blue chip talent really wasn't there. Obviously, quarterback, still got to figure that out. It really sounds like it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, which is just going to be, what a journey. Us and the Jets just trading quarterbacks without trading quarterbacks. I mean, obviously they signing, and this, they're just trading locations, and we'll see how that goes. But that's enough NFL talk. It's not even the season yet. So let me know, once again, how your reading was, what you watched, anything else down below in the comments. Come hang out on the Discord as always. But that's all for me. And remember, read what you want when you want.